Welcome viewers. In this lecture, I will be discussing about adhocracy. I will be discussing about the matrix type structure, theory Z, collateral form, network structures and other examples of adhocracy and how they play an important role in selecting the right structural form. The learning objective is basically to understand the strength and weakness of matrix type structure, identify the characteristics of theory Z, identify how structure can facilitate innovation and contrast temporary and permanent forms of adhocracy, explain network structures, assess the role of adhocracies will play in designing the future organizations. To begin with, let us understand what is adhocracy. Adhocracy is flexible, innovative organizational structure. Contrasting bureaucracy, relying on the fluid temporary teams and decentralized authority, which will help in tackling the complex problems very quickly rather than the rigid rules, standard operating procedures and hierarchy, ideal for fast changing environment when there is a excessive technological revolution or the new technology has completely revolutionized the business environment. So, this term adhocracy has been coined by Alvin Toffler, which talks about empowerment, where there is a power given to the employees at different levels, empowerment or decentralization. Experts closest to the issues to make ad hoc, that means for the purpose, ad hoc decisions are being taken, which helps in resolving the problems very quickly, fostering creativity, and it also helps in collaboration, adaptability, much different from standardized operations. Why is adhocracy relevant today? The 21st century workplace demands agility, flexibility and continuous adaptation to change. With globalization and technological advancement and evolving customer demands or expectations, organizations should stay responsive to the demands of the business environment in order to be competitive or in order to be sustainable. So, environment is described by the term VUCA, which means volatility, uncertainty, complexity and ambiguity, which is because of the evolving consumer expectations, evolving technological changes in the business environment and because of globalization. Adhocracy addresses these challenges by promoting decentralized decision making, which is much in contrast to what bureaucratic organizations did, having more power centralized with the top management. So, cross functional collaboration or individualized autonomy is what adhocracy discusses, like the concept of self management, cross functional teams, self managed teams. These terms have become more synonymous with the concept of adhocracy. What are the advantages of adhocracy? Responding rapidly to change, enhancing employee engagement by empowering employees to contribute meaningfully, boosting job satisfaction and motivation, breaking down the silos which have been created by the by functional departments. Now, there are concepts like cross functional teams, fostering collaboration, association, networks and knowledge sharing across departments, unlike the functional boundaries which have been created by or the bureaucratic organizations. So, adhocracy talks about how to foster innovation. Adhocratic organizations encourage employees to think critically, creatively and act autonomously. For instance, organizations like booking.com, they have excelled in building a culture of experimentation, creativity, innovation, experimentation, learning from the mistakes, allowing teams to implement innovative solutions very swiftly. Adhocracy decentralizes strategy and decision making to the team level. By combining this approach with higher levels of autonomy, such as self-managing teams, adhocracy equips organizations to effectively navigate the complexities and challenges of 21st century workplace. Real world examples of adhocracy are Google's innovative culture, which encourages employees to spend 20% of their time on passion projects, like leading to groundbreaking initiatives like Gmail and Google Maps. There is another example in terms of Spotify, which fosters creativity, quick decision making by organizing into small groups, autonomous squads, each responsible for a specific aspect of the product. IBM has come up with a rapid development cycle and focus on iterative problem solving. These are hallmarks of adhocracy. Is adhocracy an answer for everything? Not entirely. While its tools and principles can be highly effective, success depends on finding the right combination which has been tailored to the organization's goals and challenges. Adhocracy challenges ideal organizational concept such as bureaucracies with strict managerial hierarchies. It emphasizes on organizational structure and it talks about adaptability and context driven change. Adhocracy enables organizations to remain flexible and responsive with characteristics of dynamic project teams, specialized expertise, project specific tasks, multidisciplinary teams. It talks about mutual adjustment, minimum formalization, selective decentralization. And dynamic project teams are teams which are formed on demands based on the specific requirements of each project, which has promoted agility and also focus. Specialized expertise, experts are housed in dedicated units of administrative and operational purposes, but are temporarily assigned to multidisciplinary teams for accomplishing the project specific objectives. Mutual adjustment is teams make ad hoc decisions or instant decisions which have been guided by interactions and feedbacks between teams rather than relying solely on managerial oversight. So, tools like liaising, personnel, and standing committees facilitate collaboration to reduce the organizational rigidity. There is minimal formalization. Coordination is achieved without relying heavily on direct supervision or standard operating processes. Selective decentralization, decision making power is distributed unevenly, ensuring decisions are made by those with the right information and expertise to address specific issues effectively. And adhocracy and other organizational models. Self managed organizations prioritize employee autonomy, distribute authority, and collaboration within clearly established self managed organizations prioritize employee autonomy. The distributed authority and collaboration within clearly established rules and boundaries. Adhocracy shares similarities with the frameworks like Agile or Scrum, which emphasizes flexibility, responsiveness. How Agile and Scrum are very practical methodologies, while adhocracy serves as a broader organizational principle. It stands apart as an informal and dynamic organizational model. Adhocracy stands apart as a very informal and dynamic organizational model. Unlike bureaucracy, it rejects the rigid hierarchies and prioritizes innovation, adaptability over stability. Compared to the self management, adhocracy is less about community driven governance and it talks more about flexibility. Unlike agile, which focuses on project or team workflows, adhocracy shapes the overall structure and culture of an organization to thrive in uncertainty. So, when is adhocracy being used? Mostly in which circumstance and under which type of environment? And let us discuss in more details about different situations under which adhocracy is being adopted. High tech and startups is rapidly evolving competitive business fields. Complex environments when problems are new and it requires quick creative solutions. It requires instant suggestions and instant adaptability to the environment. In that case, adhocracy is used. mostly in the project based work. For example, temporary task which requires diverse skill sets. It cannot depend on the functional expertise of few individuals, but it requires diverse skill sets to solve the complex interdependent problems. Contrast with bureaucracy. Adhocracy is organic, flexible, innovative, and decentralized and fluid. It is not very rigid. Bureaucracy, on the other hand, is rigid, structured, rule bound, formalized, hierarchy, and it has standardized operating procedures. The benefits and drawbacks, the pros and cons of adhocracy. Adhocracy responds rapidly to the business environment, to the consumers' changing preferences, and it is also responding to the higher changes in the technological innovations. High innovation empowers employees. Drawbacks of adhocracy are potentials for it creates confusion, duplicated effort, inefficiency in stable environment. When is adhocracy mostly used? It is used in dynamic environment needing quick adaptation, innovation, problem solving like tech startups, research and development projects or project based teams where like film crews which is coming up with a new idea where flexible flat structures, empowered cross functional teams and experimentation replace rigid bureaucracies for tackling complex challenges, new problems, and it requires innovative solutions and seizing fast emerging opportunities. It is ideal when stability isn't the priority, but speed, creativity, decentralization are crucial for competitive advantage. Now, let us understand the competing values framework, and from that perspective, we will try to see what is an adhocracy culture. There are different forms of organizational culture, and how we understand adhocracy culture. So, as Kim Cameron and Robert Quinn has proposed in 1983 a competing values framework which categorizes organizational culture based on two main dimensions, that is focus, internal and external focus, and flexibility and control mechanism. Based on that, there are four distinct types of organizational culture: the clan culture, adhocracy culture, market culture, and hierarchy culture. Clan culture focuses on collaboration, internal development, and employee involvement. Adhocracy culture, which prioritizes innovation, creativity, risk taking to stay ahead in the market. The prime focus of adhocracy culture is to remain competitive, to focus on creativity. Then market culture emphasizes on competition to achieve its goals and deliver results to meet external demands. Hierarchy culture, on the other hand, values structure, stability, efficiency with the clear rules and procedures. So, what is the learning from the competing values framework? Competing values framework helps organizations understand their own culture like clan, adhocracy, market, hierarchy. What type of culture do they have? By balancing internal external focus and flexibility stability on the other dimension, to offer a roadmap for leadership, strategy, and change, which is highly relevant for navigating complex environments like during the digital transformation and attracting investments through context specific validation. And firms use it to balance traditional values like clan or hierarchy with global demands of adhocracy or market based culture, identifying the cultural gaps and developing agile leadership for growth and competitiveness. So, based on that, we have developed a kind of computing values framework as proposed by Kim Cameron and Robert Quinn. It talks about the environment, stability and flexibility, and focus, internal and external focus on another dimension. So, based on that, there are four different types of culture. The first culture is the market based culture, adhocracy culture, clan culture, and hierarchy culture. When the focus of the organization is internal and the environment is stable, the culture is hierarchy and orientation is control mechanism, and leadership type will be coordinator or monitor. The theory of effectiveness is incremental change, do things right. When the focus is internal and environment is dynamic, flexible, the culture is a clan culture and orientation is to collaborate, and leader type is facilitator or monitor, a facilitator and mentor. Theory of effectiveness is long term human development or change. Do things right. When the environment is stable and the focus is external, the culture is market and orientation is to compete. Leadership type is competitor or producer, and theory of effectiveness is short term performance, do things fast. When the environment is highly flexible, dynamic and focus is external, the culture is adhocracy. Orientation is to create. Leaders are like innovators and entrepreneurs. They focus on coming up with new ideas to compete in the market, to create newness. Theory of effectiveness rests with breakthrough innovation and fast change, doing things first rather than the competitors coming up with the new products. So, the individuality flexibility dimension, internal external focus, it gives you a complete picture of how an organization with adhocracy culture emphasizes on creativity, and leaders are basically the innovators, entrepreneurs, visionary leaders. Value drivers are innovative outputs, transformation and agility. Theory of effectiveness, innovation, vision and constant change and producer effectiveness. What are the benefits of adhocracy culture? Adhocracy culture encourages creativity and fresh thinking. Teams are free to brainstorm bold ideas and explore unconventional solutions. They come up with new ideas, new solutions. Empowers employees. People feel engaged and motivated when they are trusted to take ownership of their work. It fosters collaboration, open communication, cross functional teamwork, generates diverse perspectives, increases adaptability. Teams quickly pivot and respond to changing circumstances or new opportunities. Reward calculated risk. Organizations see breakthroughs through experimentation, innovative problem solving. What are disadvantages of adhocracy culture? While powerful adhocracy culture also comes with several drawbacks, several challenges like lack of structure, without clear roles and processes, teams may feel uncertain about responsibilities. There are potentials for inefficiencies. Excessive focus on experimentation can lead to wasted time and effort or resources. It requires strong leadership. Leaders must balance creativity and experimentation with accountability and direction. There have to be a focus towards the vision or a direction. Employee overwhelm. Not all individuals thrive in unstructured environment without defined guidelines. There are instances where people will lose their focus and they will not be, because it's an unstructured environment where there is too much of flexibility being emphasized. So, now moving towards certain examples of adhocracy culture, we will take a few like Google's focus on innovation is evident in its open-ended work space where employees are encouraged to collaborate and explore new ideas. The famous 20% time allowed employees to spend a portion of their work week pursuing passion projects outside their usual roles. This has led to the breakthrough innovations like Gmail, Google Map and AdSense. 3M's commitment to research and development, which have emphasized on employee driven initiatives of creativity. 3M has always empowered its employees to pursue projects which they have interest in, and leading to iconic products such as post-it notes and scotch tape. Netflix has adopted a decision making approach which is data driven but mostly creative, emphasizing on breaking away from traditional content distribution models. Their commitment to disruption and bold moves like investing heavily in original content and exploring new streamlined formats. Their commitment to disruption and bold moves like investing heavily in original content and exploring new streaming formats helped them maintain a competitive advantage. Now we will also discuss about certain new forms of adhocracy structure. Metric structure is a structural design that assigns specialist functional departments to work on one or more interdisciplinary teams which are led by the project leaders. It adds flexibility to the bureaucracy's economies of specialization. The manager is reporting to two different functional departmental boss. The flexibility dimension places the metrics into adhocracy classification. When do we use metrics type of structure? It is mostly used or designed to have dual focus such as functions and by products, departmentalization by functions and by product. So, conditions which favor metric structure are environmental pressures from two or more critical sectors, when there is interdependencies between two departments, economies of scales in use of internal resource. There are broadly two types of metric structure. One is temporary metric structure and permanent metric structure. What is temporary? When new contacts are secured, it exists when for the life of the project on which it is working, and permanent metric structure is favored when they stay relatively intact over time, evident usually in colleges, large retail chains, etc., and which provides clear guidelines for responsibilities of each product line. There are different temporary metric structures like flexible cross-functional teams which are formed for specific projects like new product launch or when there is a crisis due to the product failure, crisis because of resource crunch, crisis because there is lack of infrastructure support, finance or any kind of sudden emergence, some environmental factors which is leading to pulling members from different departments, for example, marketing, research and development, finance, which leads to reporting to both functional and project managers, exemplified by the tech companies like Spotify's Tribes or large firms like Hennes and Morris, Swedish multinationals outsourced models for agility and shared experience. So, metrics type of structures, the classical project metric structures, new product development teams, construction projects, like a team with engineers, marketers and finance experts forms to launch a new gadget or a new product, disbanding once the product is released. Construction projects similarly, firms like Bechel use temporary teams from engineering, procurement, construction for specific builds, blending permanent functions and project needs. What is the strength of a metrics type of structure? It is able to facilitate coordination when the organization has multiplicity of complex and interdependent activities, increased ability to respond to the rapid changes in the business environment, which are constantly evolving and creating pressure on organizations to be more efficient and effective, serve customers' demands. Cost control with the organization's needs for economic efficiency, an effective means for balancing the consumer's requirement for project completion. Weaknesses of the metrics type of structures. The metrics type of structure, because there are two reporting relationships to the manager who is working in the metric structure is reporting to the department as well as the product team. So, there is a lot of confusion which emanates. There is propensity to foster power struggles. There is, because of scarcity of resources, there is always a resource crunch and people vie to acquire more resources, access to information or say rewards. So, there is always a power struggle that exists. Stress placed on individuals, there is confusion and ambiguity which creates the seed for the power struggle. There is always a power struggle or conflict between individuals who are working in the metrics type of structure. Reporting to more than one boss introduces role conflict, role related conflict because of higher expectations of managers from different departments. Theory Z organizations, long term employment, moderately specialized career paths, consensual decision making, individual responsibility and infrequent appraisal. There is also implicit informal appraisal and explicit formalized measures, and slow promotion and comprehensive concern for employees. So, these are certain characteristics of Theory Z organizations where there is a long term employment contract, moderately specialized career path. uh, the focus is on consensual decision making, not based on a single person's decision, individual responsibility and infrequent appraisal system, and implicit informal appraisal along with explicit formalized measures and slow promotion, comprehensive concern for employees. There is another form of adhocracy structure which is called collateral form. It is loosely structured organic appendage designed to coexist side by side with a bureaucracy on a relatively permanent basis. These are small teams or separate business units that are given the independence and resources to experiment. Then there is also a network structure, which is a small central organization that relies on other organizations to perform, like manufacturing, distribution, marketing or other crucial business functions on a contractual basis. Other examples of adhocracy are the task forces, a temporary structure formed to accomplish a specific well defined and complex task that involves number of subunits, like the committees, the collegial form. Committee form is another example of adhocracy when it is desired that a broad range of experience and backgrounds to be brought to bear on a decision, when those who will be affected by a decision are allowed to be represented, when it believed desirable to spread the workload, or during periods of management transition when no single individual is ready to lead the organization, committee structure may be highly effective. The collegial form of structure, fashionable structure, mostly practiced in universities, research labs and other highly professional organizations. Its unique characteristics is full democracy in making of all important decisions. This is in contrast to the task force or committee structure that utilizes representative decision making. So, what we have discussed so far in the adhocracy structure is we started with a discussion on what is adhocracy. We described the strengths of adhocracy culture, what is adhocracy culture, how it is different from bureaucratic structure, why is adhocracy relevant today, and we discussed about adhocracy decentralizes strategic and decision making to the team level, and is adhocracy an answer to everything. We have also discussed about self managed teams, then when adhocracy is used in high tech and startup firms based on and project based work, and we discussed about the adhocracy culture, benefits of adhocracy culture, and further discussing about the disadvantages and certain examples of adhocracy culture like matrix type structure, then temporary matrix structure, strengths and weaknesses of matrix structure, Theory Z organizations, collateral form, network structures and other examples. We have come to a conclusion that bureaucracy is based on the rigid rules and regulations which streamlines the operations of an organization, whereas adhocracy is a highly flexible agile type of organizational structure which is responsive to the demands in the business environment, which has various forms like matrix types, collegial form, then committee form of structure. Thank you.